Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of Survive in Advance today. We have our NBA beat reporter, Cole Hanna, with me today. Mike Goodpasser is on special assignment. I think he's actually taking his kid to college to play football in North Carolina. Of all places, why would an Indiana guy go to North Carolina to go play college football? Cole, do you have any answer for that?
No, we have a powerhouse football team in IU sitting right there. I don't know why you need to leave state.
We don't have a powerhouse football team in Indiana. We have the worst record of any college bowl eligible football team in the history of college bowl eligible teams. Indiana has the worst record of anybody. We are not a powerhouse, okay? Let's just not go there. Let's just say it's a great opportunity. Yeah, I want to believe too. I want to see. I'd like to see us have a damn winning record one year and get into any damn bowl game, even if it's the Yankee Bowl game, or where they played the last time they played a bowl game, wasn't it at Yankee Stadium?
Yeah, up in Yankee. I forget the name of the bowl game, but yeah, and
the Pinstripe Bowl Stadium. The Pinstripe Bowl.
Yeah, Pinstripe Bowl is what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. And so, all right, so let's just leave that alone. All right, but Cole Hanna and I are going to go through the NBA draft or the free agency market and the trades and all the things that acquired now. Everything's kind of settled down. It's getting a little more quiet. We got most of the key players in place, and we're good to go. So we're just going to kind of run you down through team by team and talk about who had the greatest success, who didn't, and go from there. Cole, you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm good to go.
All right. Let's start off with the fact that, and this is amazing to me, that there was three. Estimates say over $3.5 billion committed to signing of players in the NBA. What do you think about that, Cole? I mean, can the league afford that? That's 3.5, or is this just a league where the tech giants, the tech geeks, have all made a bunch of money off of the internet and bought these teams? And they have more money than God, and they're just wantonly throwing money out there ridiculously for people.
Yeah, it shows you the power of those new TV contracts the league's gotten. The cap has really exploded as a result of that. You've got billionaire owners who are, willing to toss around a lot of money, especially those guys in the big markets like New York, Los Angeles, but it's really the TV contracts are what's doing this. I mean, the league's getting billions of dollars off TV contracts, and that's being redistributed to the teams, and the cap is exploding as a result. At some point here in the next few years, the cap's going to have to start leveling out. We're not going to see these huge rises in the cap like we have the last few years, just because the league can't afford this continued rise in the cap. Eventually, it's going to get too expensive for a lot of these owners, especially the small market owners that, can't really handle the increased expenses here. But it's crazy to think about with how the cap continues to explode, how much money they're throwing around. And a lot of these teams are paying the luxury tax too, so they're going to have to pay, even way more than they're giving out in contracts. So, it's a ton of money. It's really hard. They were spending billions of dollars in an hour or two of free agency. It was truly something. It was fascinating to watch how much money was being thrown around in such a short period of time.
Well, should there even be a cap? Because, basically, these guys buy teams, let's say like Oklahoma City. Let's just use that as an example, or Milwaukee. Those are what we would consider small markets. Indianapolis is probably what we would consider Toronto, what we consider a small market. But billionaires own these teams. Should there even be a cap? Why do you even have a cap on salary spent at this point? At $3.5 billion, really?
Yeah, so I think the point of the cap here is, all of these guys have a ton of money, but the markets themselves are not even. A lot of these teams have, these different TV contracts, especially locally. You see it a lot in MLB where, all of the owners of the different MLB teams are, these billionaires who can afford to spend a lot of money. But in baseball, you see a lot of the same teams that have the owners with the most amount of money, and they kind of buy just, the best players they can. You know, there's not necessarily the parity, you know, in baseball as far as where the talent is in the league, because, you know, the teams with the deepest pockets can go out and buy the best players. There's nothing stopping them from doing that, you know. Whereas in basketball, I think what they want to do, and basketball isn't always the best sport in terms of parity, but what they want to do is that if you want to put together these super teams, you need to be creative. You need to be smart. When you look at Golden State, they couldn't just go out and buy the best players. When they created that super team, the reason they're able to do that is because they drafted a lot of those players and made it easier to keep them and maneuver around the cap to make that happen. If you remove the cap, you know, I think the fear there is that a lot of these, you know, big market teams like LA, New York with the deepest pockets, you know, even deeper than these billionaire owners that are in, you know, Milwaukee, Indiana, they can just go out and buy the best players. They can go and offer the most money to these top-end players, and the small markets eventually are going to get to a level where they just can't compete with the offers they're making.
All right, well, you say that, but, like, I mean, I live in Los Angeles right now. Jeannie Buss does nothing but owns the Lakers. I mean, she got her dad's inheritance, Jerry Buss, whatever that was, which I'm sure was a boatload of money, but she doesn't have an operating system that creates a lot more revenue other than the Lakers. Does she have the same kind of capital like Ballmer at the Clippers? You know, he was a Microsoft guy. I believe, was he Microsoft or Apple? One of the two. He was a computer guy. Yeah. And so he made $50 billion off of that. So he's got money at the yin-yang. But you say that, but all these guys now, you have to be a billionaire to even be considered to own an NBA team. So is money really an issue here? Is it just the silliness of what they're paying? Because now you're talking about, and we'll get into this when we get down there, that Russell Westbrook wants out of Oklahoma City, and he's going to be 35 years old, and he's guaranteed $47 million. Nobody wants to take him on that kind of money.
Yeah.
So, but that's some billionaire. So anybody, Oklahoma, oil, you know, that's where Jerry Jones came from, didn't he? Didn't he make his money in Oklahoma? Who bought the Cowboys?
I'm not sure.
The most valued franchise in sports.
Yeah.
I think the Dallas Cowboys are still the most valued franchise in sports. So I don't know that money even matters anymore because, you know, and we'll talk about this too in the show. 2021, this is all going to happen again. I mean, I think 2020 is going to be a quiet year, and we'll get into that. But 2021, a lot of these guys are coming back up for free agency again, and you're going to see $50, $60 million – you're getting into F1 money now, Formula One. Because that's like what Lewis Hamilton makes. That's what Sebastian Vettel makes. Those guys get paid big jack by those car companies to go out and win races. You know, they're some of the highest paid athletes in the world, or F1. But this is just nuts. So I don't even know if there even should be a salary cap anymore. And now
the only thing –
Supermax – go ahead.
The only thing I would offer on the salary cap front is, all of these guys have, you know, big pocketbooks. They can shell out these, you know, large amounts of money. Any team, top to bottom, you're a billionaire if you're owning an NBA franchise. I agree with you there. But we do see teams, you know, get picky with where they're spending their money. I mean, you can see that with Milwaukee, you know, this past offseason. They let Malcolm Brogdon go in part because their owner did not want to pay the luxury tax to keep him.
Yeah, and the Pacers overpaid for him. Yeah.
Yeah, so they gave him.
And we'll get to that when we talk about Pacers,
Yeah. So there are limits to where these owners are willing to spend.
Well, you know, the guy that's hurting right now is probably Herb Simon. I mean, Herb Simon owns the Pacers.
Yeah.
He owns malls.
Yep.
And guess what? Strip malls are going out of business.
Dying industry. Yeah.
Dying industry. And so he's probably at the low end of the totem pole right now in terms of income.
And the Pacers have
what he can afford to pay for a great player for the Pacers.
And the Pacers have always been one of the lower spending teams in the NBA on that front.
Yeah.
They've never been
one
money. Of the big spenders of the NBA. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, Cuban at Dallas, Ballmer, the guys at Sacramento, the guys at Golden State, you know, they're all tech giants that own these teams, and I don't know that there should even be a salary cap at this point. When you commit $3.5 billion to players to play basketball, which I would love to see what all these guys would be doing if basketball didn't exist.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna leave it at that right there. I'm not gonna go any
I don't
deeper
think
than
they'd be
that.
making nearly as much money.
I don't think they'd be making anywhere close. I don't know if they'd be making six figures. A lot of them. But they can play. Good for them. And it's great, and it's what the marksman pay. And when we look at, just to wrap this whole segment up, we learned earlier in the week or 2 weeks ago that Indiana got $53 million from the Big Ten network contract.
Yeah.
And the president of the university said, I'm taking some of that money out of the athletic department and putting it into the regular school system. What do you think about that? I mean, you're a student at Indiana. I mean, I think it's a good thing. They should do that. That's income coming into the university, not to the athletic department.
Yeah. I'll say this. I would have a problem with it if you weren't seeing big investment going into the athletic department. But they just closed off that south end zone of the football stadium with a high-end facility. They've added a lot to Assembly Hall over the last few years. So you're seeing these investments into the.
They don't fill the stadium up right now. Indiana does not fill Memorial Stadium up at all. It's barely half full for every game.
They're not adding seats. Yeah, the only thing they added, I believe, it was like a new workout facility, and it was just facilities for the football team. And essentially why you do that is it's a recruiting tool, right? I mean, it's happening all across college football where teams are continuously upgrading their facilities to appeal to these athletes. So I would have an issue if Indiana was lagging behind in facilities and they weren't putting the investment there. But you're seeing the investment in that facility, so I don't have a problem with it. As long as the athletic department is getting the investment it needs to compete, I don't have an issue with it, and I think you're seeing that
so I'm an alumni. I'm a national champion from that university and played there in '81. We used the same damn locker room. It got repainted, I think, every year, maybe.
Yeah.
No new lockers put in or anything like that. We didn't have a media facility.
Yep.
We didn't have a big workout room. They're going to Cook Hall right now. Indiana. I'm just using them as an example. For what you're saying, university is doing. Cook Hall is what, 5 years old, 6 years old? Is it that old? I don't even know.
Yeah, it's. I forget when it was built exactly. Yeah, I mean it's a new facility. It can't be. It's not that old.
And they're going to put $3 million into renovating the men's basketball locker room.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you need? We had 15 stalls. We sat on rubber chairs next to each other. We had a shower. We had a toilet. We did have stalls, so we could shit in private when we wanted to. We had a training room down the hall, and we had a shower, which we all showered together. And we had a Mr. Misty or a Zemi machine, we called it, a Mr. Misty machine, and that was it. And that was my 4 years at IU. And I didn't want for anything more. We saw film in our locker room. We knew we were going to get crushed when the projector, 8-millimeter projector was set up. And it's like, oh, God, we're going to get called out. Because on the chalkboard, there it was, and Knight would walk in, and he would just rip us a new asshole. And he'd run it back for it. Risley, get up there. Go point out where you should be. Right there. Well, why aren't you there? Risley, what kind of pass is that? That's an NFW pass, Risley. NFW. What's an NFW? No fucking way. That's a no fucking way pass. I mean, we sat in the same locker room in the same chair for 4 years, and now they're talking about doing this. The money's just gotten silly in sports. It's just gotten really silly. So
again. And with college athletics, it's the same thing in the NBA that we're talking about. It's these TV contracts. I mean, they are getting huge money from these TV contracts. You talked about the Big Ten network contract, and that's why you're seeing this huge amount of investments going into this, just because they have all this money from the TV contracts. And that, that's a relatively recent thing. I mean, that's why we're seeing the NBA cap explode in recent years. It's really, the media aspect of this, from TV to social media around athletics, has really exploded in the last 10 to 15 years.
Okay, so describe the because there's loopholes in the cap because now they're doing this sign and trade thing, which basically is saying that's getting around the cap because I'm not going to supermax contract you, right?
Yeah. So for the most part,
so you're buying the contract.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. It allows teams that either can't afford, they don't have the cap space to absorb the contract. Or they're trying to essentially work out some kind of trade to shed salary or for whatever reason. So it's essentially what it's doing is, an example of it would be kind of the Jimmy Butler thing, or they're talking about sign and trade for Russell Westbrook, where a team like Miami, who doesn't have the cap space to absorb him, so they can't sign him outright in free agency. And the Pacers signing trade for Malcolm Brogdon. Essentially what it is the team. So essentially one thing we have to work out for trade is if you sign a player in free agency, you then cannot immediately trade him. That's technically not allowed. It's against NBA rules. The sign and trade is treated differently. So that all has to be considered one move by the NBA. So essentially the team that he was with, so if you're, a free agent with, Miami, and you're trying to get signed and traded to Philly, then Miami technically signs you to the contract, and you're immediately traded to Philly. Philly, who maybe won't have the cap space to absorb the contract, will send money back to Miami. That way they can get and absorb that contract into the cap space. So it's essentially a metric so that teams can absorb these free agents that they can't outright sign by sending money back. So it's a loophole around the cap. And you're seeing a lot of teams do it, especially with these huge contracts. A lot of teams don't have the cap space to just absorb it. So that's why you're seeing a lot of sign and trades today, because it's a loophole for teams that otherwise can't take that contract to now shed some salary and absorb that contract.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say half, but a good portion of the deals that went on this last week in the free agent market were sign and trades. They weren't free agent signings. I mean, ultimately, Kawhi Leonard, $103 million for 3 years. That's a steal for the Clippers, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, he's arguably one of the best players in the league right now, and they only paid $103 million, and he's got he has the third year that if he wants to opt out.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, I think they got the best. I think that's the best deal of the entire free agent market.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you look at some of the other contracts we have around the league, where John Wall is going to be making, $45 million, Russell Westbrook is going to be making $50 million at the end of his contract. Yeah, to get Kawhi Leonard at 3 years, $100 million. I mean, that's the best player in the league today. Yeah, I think that's an absolute bargain. I think you saw him do the 2+1 because he's going to opt out after 2 years when he's
he's going to go to Supermax contract then.
Yeah, so
he's eligible then, and that's going to be $50 million a year. At that point, it's going to be $50 million.
Yeah, it's going to be. Yeah, he'll be making big money.
and then guys like Golden State. Let's look at Golden State. They took a huge hit. I mean, they've lost pretty much everybody. Any consequence. Iguodala, they traded to Memphis. Klay Thompson's out until maybe playoffs. They signed him to a supermax contract. DeMarcus Cousins left to the Lakers. We'll talk about that. So they've took a huge hit. But now they have both. You're only allowed to have two players on supermax contracts on each team, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've got they get Curry. Then now they have Curry and Thompson on supermax contracts, so they're done. And Thompson's not going to be, they said maybe by the playoffs of next year.
Yeah.
So they're going to live the season without him. So they go from world champions to hope they make the playoffs.
Well,
one player is easy to guard even in the NBA. Steph Curry's all you really got going for you.
And the Warriors are a good example of the sign and trade, because that's how they acquired D'Angelo Russell from Brooklyn, was a sign and trade with Brooklyn. But
they need another guard. And that's the last thing they needed was another guard.
Well, that's
Steph Curry.
they can use him next year in the regular season because Klay Thompson's going to be out. So Russell can kind of help take some of the load off Steph next year. Now, where it gets interesting is when Klay Thompson comes back, you have a max to Klay Thompson, you have a max to D'Angelo Russell, and you have a max to Steph Curry. So your backcourt is now completely maxed out. They lost a lot of depth this past season. That's where, does D'Angelo Russell fit into that? Because he's not a great off-the-ball player. He's a guy that needs the ball in his hands. And do you want him to have the ball more than you want Steph Curry or Klay Thompson to have the ball?
You don't.
And the answer to that for me is no, you don't. So how does he fit into that team? I know there's been a lot of talk that Golden State acquired him to try to flip him around the trade deadline for someone, which would be interesting. So I think that'll be something you'll see his name heat up in trade talks, as Klay Thompson gets closer to coming back. But, so that is a big move to kind of help them stay afloat in the West with how deep that conference is in the regular season. I don't know if you'll see D'Angelo Russell with Golden State come playoff time. But, for the most part, I think Golden State's still a playoff team in the West. They lost a lot, not just between Kevin Durant and DeMarcus Cousins. They lost a lot of depth on that team. Quinn Cook's gone, Jordan Bell gone, Andre Iguodala gone. The depth that Golden State had is just not there anymore. So, they're not a dynasty anymore. I mean, the Patriots find a way to perpetuate their dynasty. They find guys, but I think they lost their dynasty status almost immediately. I think they're a team now that's going to be struggling to get in the playoffs. They'll get in the playoffs. Yeah, no,
because I believe Steve
they'll
Kerr's
be
a
in the
good coach.
playoffs. I think
they'll be in the playoffs, but they're no longer the top of the West.
I just think there's a handful of teams in the West I would put above.
You got Denver, you got Utah, you got Houston.
Yeah,
you got
Utah
Lakers,
made some
Clippers.
big moves.
Yeah, I mean, you got they're maybe sixth best in the West right now, at best.
Yep.
Yeah, and San Antonio, as long as Coach Pop's there, they're going to be good. I mean, he's probably the best coach in the NBA. I mean, they're 6, 7, or 8 seed right now, going up against the Lakers or the Clippers or the Jazz or Denver, which we'll talk about as we go through the free agency thing. But they're a long way away from where they were 2 months ago. They didn't make the right move. In 2001, you got Giannis, Leonard, James, Paul George, Bradley Beal, C.J. McCollum, Victor Oladipo, Blake Griffin, Rudy Gobert, and Andre Drummond, all being free agents 2002-1. So, again, like we talked about, this whole crap starts up again. 2020 will probably be a quiet year. There's not a lot of guys up for free agency that year. Everybody's in their contracts.
It's a shallow.
This is going to get monstrous in 2021.
Yeah, it's a shallow free agent market next year. 2021 is going to be chaos like it was this year. There's going to be, and that you're seeing teams plan for that, right? I mean, you saw, look at the Knicks. That's a team that's signing a lot of 2-year deals. So they're going to have a lot of money coming off the books that summer.
Well, Lakers are too. They sign a lot of 1-year deals.
Yeah, a lot of one. Yeah, well, you're seeing teams go after 1-2-year deals because of that. There's going to be a lot of. I mean, you just went through. I mean, that's a star-studded free agency cast. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of all-stars who are.
That's the NBA all-NBA team right there. that is the NBA all-NBA team.
That's a ton. That's a star-studded cast of free agents right there. There's going to be a lot of teams involved in that. It's going to be like this past free agent market. I mean, that was chaos. We talked about how much money was spent. There was billions of dollars being spent within 2 hours of free agency opening. Multiple guys getting $100 million plus contracts. I mean, $100 million is almost a bargain contract at this point when you're getting guys with $180, $190 million. So, yeah, there's going to be a big, big emphasis on spending that offseason. You're going to see kind of like this season where it almost felt like the entire landscape kind of shifted in the NBA, at least in the West. The top of the West is really not going to look too similar to what it was last season. And we could very well see that again come 2021.
Yeah. All right. Let's run through the teams real quickly here and not take a lot of everybody's time. Power rankings for the free agency market. Clippers are ranked number 1. did they do the right things? I mean, they got Leonard and they got Paul George. Did they make the right moves? What's your thoughts on that?
I'll say this for the Clippers. They certainly gave up a lot. Now, that being said,
how many draft picks did they give up? 5 draft picks to get George?
They gave up 5 first-round draft picks. They gave up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who had a very good rookie year for them. I mean, that's a very, very good young player at point guard who now they had to send him to Oklahoma City. It was a big, big trade. I mean, they gave up a lot of assets. That being said, you can't – and they gave up Danilo Gallinari, who's a very good player as well. But you can't look at it as a trade for Paul George. They were essentially trading for Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. I mean, because they did that deal with the assumption if they get Paul George, Kawhi Leonard's come in. That's how it worked out. They gave up
in your mind, do you think that Leonard said, "I've got to have another superstar with me, or I'm not coming"?
Yeah, that from what I've been hearing being talked about, yeah, that's essentially what happened. He wanted another star with him in LA if he goes to LA. Paul George was the guy he wanted to play with, and he told the Clippers, get Paul George and he'll come. So if they don't get Paul George, he's probably not coming. So they did what they had to do to get Paul George. They lost a lot. Yeah, that's true. They definitely lost a lot. But you have to do that to get it. When you get Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, in my mind, that's the favorite next season. This was a 48-win team last season. I mean, this was a very, very good team.
Good team on its own, right?
They kept most of their, good supporting cast. They brought back Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell's back. They re-signed Patrick Beverley. They're going to have a very, very good team. In my mind, they're the favorite. They brought back JaMychal Green. They're going to have a very, very good team next year. So, yeah, I think they gave up a lot, but to me, you have to kind of mortgage. When you have a chance to get Kawhi Leonard, who's in his prime, is the best player in the NBA, and sign Paul George with them, who's a legitimate superstar, you have to take that risk. You have to mortgage your future on those two guys because they're worth it. So, to me, they became the title favorites in almost a span of 10 minutes within making that trade. I think, they put a lot out there to get those two guys, but they had to.
And we'll get to this because we'll talk about the Lakers here in a minute. They're in a market out here that they're competing, and both teams play in the same stadium. They both play. Yeah. I've been to games at Staples Center for Lakers and the Clippers, and they both play in the same stadium. So, I mean, there's a huge – and, the Lakers are Showtime, so the Lakers still kind of rule the world out here based on past performance. But, this is a golden opportunity. But can Paul George get along with these guys? I mean, because – seems to me when he was at the Pacers, when he's at Oklahoma City, I don't want to say he's a cancer because he's a great player. He's a great basketball player.
Yeah.
But it just seems like he doesn't get along well with his teammates. Is he going to be able to fit in? Now, he's from Los Angeles, isn't he? I think he and Leonard are both from L.A.
He's from yeah, so that's the interesting aspect of this is they knew each other growing up. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard did. They've been friends for a good amount of time now. And Kawhi Leonard wanted Paul George. So, yeah, he's kind of had – there's even been rumors that, he and Westbrook didn't necessarily see eye to eye, and there's some tension there. Obviously, the way, he departed from Indiana was not, obviously there's been a lot of bad blood there.
Indiana won on that deal. Are you kidding me? We came out way ahead of that deal.
Indiana is perfectly fine looking back with that trade. But if – Kawhi Leonard really wanted Paul George, and they're friends, and they get along. I don't think the risk is that great of him being a locker room cancer. I mean, Kawhi Leonard wanted him to play. I mean, they want to play together. I think they can make it work. That being said, there's going to be a lot of pressure on Paul George, and Paul George is a guy who, for the most part, he kind of has a reputation of coming up short in the playoffs. They're going to have to figure that out.
Yeah, but is that on him or is that on Russell Westbrook? I mean, who's that on? I mean, I think Paul George is a great player.
Both. Oh no,
he's make the argument both ways. I don't know that that doesn't fall on Paul George's shoulders entirely. That guy's been a solid performer in the NBA. Every year he's played, even with the Pacers and everything, he was a solid performer.
He's been very good.
Board, but how much support did he have around him?
that's the issue. But even dating back to Indiana, there are some questions there. He's been not just in OKC, but in Indiana. There's been some Game 7s where they've counted on him, and you can look at the statistics there with him where he hasn't performed well in those situations. Now, granted, he was the go-to guy in Indy. They didn't really have another star next to him in Indiana. So, if they shut him down, that can be tough trying to carry a team by yourself. And Oklahoma City, Russell Westbrook is not the most team-oriented guy. It can be tough to fit in next when he's such a ball-dominant player. So how does he fit next to Kawhi?
Be careful. Ross bought his car from Russell Westbrook. He's got a new Dodge Challenger. He bought it from Russell Westbrook Dodge. I don't think Russell Westbrook has anything to do with the dealership, but his name's on the label. He's got a license plate tag that says Russell Westbrook Dodge. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how those two work out there. I think they'll make it work, and the fact that both of them want to make it work, I don't think we'll see too many problems there.
Doc Rivers is a good coach for these guys. I mean, and we got Jerry West, who arguably is a basketball genius. I mean, the GM of that team. Vollmer's got more money than God. You got Doc Rivers. Can he get these guys to play well? Because he's turned loose a lot of talent off that basketball team. You let Blake Griffin go. Who was the big center they had? Can't remember his name. He's in New Jersey now. He's in Brooklyn now.
DeAndre Jordan. Yeah, that's who you're thinking of.
Yeah. And I thought he was a great player. They fired Mike Woodson, which pissed me off like there's no tomorrow, because that was my end to get free tickets to the Clippers games. I call Mike and I get free tickets to the Clippers games. So now that's gone. But because Mike Lewis is still at UCLA, offer left, I can still get free tickets to UCLA games. Free is good.
Yeah.
You'll learn. Free is good.
Yeah. I don't know.
So are the Clippers the team to beat? Let's start at the top. Are the Clippers the team to beat? And we'll go down the list. We'll make arguments. But are the Clippers the team to beat?
In my mind, yeah. I know a lot of people have the Lakers up there, but the Clippers were a far better team last year. They add Kawhi, they add Paul George to an already very good supporting cast. That team won 48 games last year. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, without those two, they won 48 games. They add those two. They add, in my mind, the best player in the NBA. I have to put them as a favorite.
Yeah, and they added, Mo Harkless and Egley. Yeah, and they add some depth. They've got depth now, so they've got some bench depth. They lost Rivers trades his own kid, gets rid of his own son.
Yeah. Wilson Chandler.
The hell with you?
He's
gone. Where did he go to? He went to Dallas, didn't he?
No, he's in Houston now. Yeah.
Houston. Okay, yeah, Texas somewhere.
Yeah, that had to be an awkward trade discussion, but
I know. It's like, hey, you want to come over for dinner? Guess what? You're traded. All right. So the Clippers are solid. They're the odds-on favorite on everybody's pool right now. Everybody's poll. They're the team to beat. Yep. And I think personally, they're living off Kawhi Leonard's year he had at Toronto, which was a phenomenal year. And I think Paul George is a great player, but you know what? They got to duplicate that. They've got to come up and play that big again. And that's what remains to be seen. That's where I say LeBron James, who's done it for many years, I put more faith in LeBron James being able to duplicate it right now than I do Kawhi Leonard. But Paul George has been consistent. You don't like the guy because he's kind of a dick, but he's a great basketball player, and you want that kind of talent on your team.
Hey, he was in the MVP discussion this past season.
Yeah, no, justifiably. I mean, he's a great player.
Yeah.
And so we got the Clippers at number one. Number two, we're talking about the 76ers. Talk about the 76ers. What did they do? Because they're in the power rankings. They're ranked number two right now in the power rankings.
Yeah. So I'm not going to be as high on Philadelphia's, as those power rankings would say. They're going to be interesting to watch. I still think this team is going to have problems come playoff time. because of Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons, in my mind, has to develop a jump shot. I don't see how that duo of Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons is going to, upset Milwaukee in the East if they can't get Ben Simmons with the jump shot. I mean, he's got to at least be able to shoot the ball. Floor spacing in that team is going to be a very serious issue. I think Jimmy Butler's a bigger loss than what people will lead on for that team, because that was, he was the closer for that team. When they were in the playoffs, if you watched a lot of their games, he was their closer. It wasn't Ben Simmons. It wasn't Joel Embiid. When they needed a bucket and crunch time, they went to Jimmy Butler. So when they lose that guy, they're going to need someone who steps into that role. I don't think Ben Simmons can do that if he doesn't have a jump shot. Teams are going to double-team Joel Embiid. Is Tobias Harris going to be that guy? I don't know. I mean, he's been with 6 teams in 7 years. If you're that caliber of player, I don't think you get bounced around that much. Al Horford's an interesting fit there. Now, that's a move that I think that'll work out. That'll help him. I don't know if it's as good of a move as what Jimmy Butler gave him, but Al Horford is like the one guy in the East that really gave Embiid trouble.
Right.
If you can't beat him, add him to your team, I guess. Yeah. So, it's an interesting thing to do, because in the NBA, when we look at it, the landscape of the NBA has always been small ball. In the past 3-4 years, teams have been going smaller. Philadelphia is investing in this duo of Embiid and Al Horford in the front court. That's a big front court right there. So that'll be interesting to watch. Not many teams are going to be able to match up with that size-wise. Philly's going to have to match up with small ball teams on the other end, so that'll be interesting to watch. I think Philadelphia is definitely up there in the East. They're going to be contenders in the East. Adding Josh Richardson, I think, was a very good move. That gives them another shooter, and they're going to need shooting. Ben Simmons is not much of a shooter. Joel Embiid's not much of a shooter. They're going to need as much shooting around those guys to give them the space to operate. So I think that was a very good move. I think Philadelphia is going to be definitely one of the contenders in the East, but I wouldn't put them number 2 overall in the NBA. I think the Lakers would have to be above them. I would put Milwaukee above them, I think, as well.
Okay, but you're talking about the East.
Yeah.
Right now, the power rankings, they've got them seated at number 2 in the power rankings, which means they're the number 1 East team. It seems to me that the East, the West used to be kind of what we would call the weaker division, conference, whatever you want to say, because it basically was Golden State and maybe Houston or maybe San Antonio. But the East is where all the duking was going on. That's where all the battling was going on. It was in the East. Has that shifted now that is there really a team in the East that can contend with the teams in the West right now?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question the balance of power shifted significantly. The vast majority of the star players in the NBA are in the Western Conference now. It's just how it's worked out. A lot of guys down west. Yeah.
A lot of good-looking girls out here, Cole. You got to come out here.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
Cole. A lot of gorgeous girls out here, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it at all. But, the big thing,
Ross
other teams in the East, yeah. Oh, I'm sure Ross knows. Ross is like a great industry to figure that out. But I think when you look at the East to West, let's put some the East won the title this past season. We'll give them that. But now Kawhi goes West, right? Is Philadelphia is that team good enough to beat Los Angeles on paper? I don't think so. Milwaukee's going to be. That was the team with the best record in the NBA last year, but they did lose Malcolm Brogdon, who was a 50, 40, 90 guy for them. That's a big loss. They've kind of replaced him with players that, they're solid role players, but you're not the caliber of player Brogdon was. So how big of a step back are they going to take because of that? The depth in the East, I think there are maybe 3 to 4 teams in the East that can compete, to come out of the East and go to the finals. The West has so many good teams top to bottom that, when you go to the bottom of the East, there's going to be 500 teams contending for the playoffs. You go to the bottom from the West, and you look at it last season, the Clippers won 48 games, and they were the 8th seed. So top to bottom, it's not just at the top. It's just from the pure depth standpoint, the West is just a much better conference. It has way more depth than the East does. I think there's a couple of teams at the top that can make it interesting. Philadelphia, Milwaukee, definitely. can make it interesting to contend with
Pacers.
these, heavy hitters from the West. Yeah, I think the Pacers, depending on how Oladipo comes back and be in that discussion, a lot of people
we'll
have
get
Boston.
To them. Yeah, we'll get to them. Let's get to them.
We'll get to those teams. But I think where the East really falls off is once you get past those first 4 or 5 teams. Then there's a big fall off.
I agree entirely. They become the West. I mean, because that's how the West used to be. You had 2 or 3 good teams in the West. Now it's just the balance of power has shifted. Okay, now we have an arms race going on out here in Los Angeles because the Lakers are the 3rd team. So we have an arms race. I mean, they're signing everybody left and right, but they're signing them to 1-year contracts. So is this a situation with the Lakers where they're expecting to win next year? I mean, LeBron's 35 years old. He's making movies. He's making Space Jam 2 right now. Ross got asked to work on that movie, but he was already doing a Star Wars project, so he couldn't do it. But this is kind of like a 1 or 2 year deal for the Lakers, and they're going to have to retool entirely. So talk about all the Lakers acquisitions and what they've done, because they've done it like they're expecting to win next year.
Yeah, well, that's a completely retooled roster.
Right.
Lonzo Ball gone, Josh Hart gone, Brandon Ingram gone. They lost a lot. Now, give credit to the Lakers here. They were kind of in trouble because they were kind of waiting on Kawhi Leonard. And there was a lot of free agents I'm sure they would have loved to have gotten in on that went off the board quickly while they were waiting for Kawhi Leonard. But then Kawhi goes for the Clippers, and they kind of had a limited free agent pool to work with, but I thought they made a lot of smart moves. I think Danny Green's a great move for them. That's a really, really good shooter, good defender. He fits, perfectly next to Anthony Davis and LeBron. DeMarcus Cousins is an interesting move. I'll say this because Cousins and Anthony Davis have played together before. This is not the first year they've been together. They were together in New Orleans, and that was working, right? But then Cousins suffers the injury, and they obviously went their separate ways after that. So, how are they going to play together in L.A.? Are they going to kind of be able to rekindle that partnership they had? I think he kind of struggled, especially in the playoffs with Golden State. You could kind of see Golden State was maybe even a little bit better with him off the court, but he has a year to get healthy, recover from that injury, because I don't think he was 100% playoff time last season.
They mortgaged the farm too. The Lakers, they mortgaged the farm to get Davis, didn't they?
Yeah, well, it's like they had a talented cast.
And then New Orleans got 5 first-round picks out of them too, or something like that.
Yeah, they got probably a couple first-round picks. It wasn't 5,
a couple, all right.
But it was probably But what the Lakers really did is they had young pieces that were attractive in trades. Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, and they had to ship all of them. I mean, they pretty much
great. They get Lonzo Ball's dad. Good, he's out of L.A. Thank God.
They shipped LeVar Ball out as well.
LeVar Ball, he can go hawk on Bourbon Street right now and go yak it up there with Drew Brees and everybody. Who day?
Yeah. So the Lakers are going to be an interesting team to watch. They brought in Avery Bradley, Quinn Cook as well. Those are 2 good guards. You're talking about the arms race. People are going to be comparing the Lakers and Clippers all of next season, right? That's going to be the 2 teams people are watching. I'll say this for the Lakers. How the Clippers are going to defend Anthony Davis is going to be very interesting. Cause I don't think they have a guy on their roster right now that's well-suited to do that. Anthony Davis could be a very, very big problem for them. He was a big problem for them last season when they played. They really didn't add anyone that can guard him this past offseason. So Anthony Davis could be a huge, huge problem for the Clippers. If these 2 teams match up in the playoffs, that'll be something to watch.
And they play them like 6 times, don't they? And you're in the same conference that you play 3 home, 3 away. Because I know on the East and West plays 1 and 1, but I think in your own conference, so it's all going to be the Staples Center.
Yes, so they'll play 4
they're all going to
times
play the Staples Center right now, the same building.
Yeah.
But I agree. I don't know the guy. I think Anthony Davis may still be the best player in basketball right now.
He's definitely.
But here's the $10 question for you. You. What is the deal with LeBron? I mean, some guys are acting like they don't want to play with him. Is he become an obstacle, or is he still LeBron? Or what's your thoughts on LeBron James with the Lakers?
It's interesting because, I don't think LeBron is necessarily a locker room issue. I don't think he's that kind of guy. But I think what it is when you play,
that's why Magic left.
Yeah. Well, when you play, exactly. When you come and play with LeBron runs the show. LeBron is the centerpiece of everything. And a lot of times, if you fail, that team fails. No one's going to really question LeBron for the most part. LeBron has proven he's one of the greatest players of all time. I think most people can agree with that. So if you fail, the surrounding cast is going to be getting the vast majority of that scrutiny. That they're not good enough to win with LeBron. So there's a lot of pressure when you go to play with LeBron. There's obviously he's the face of the NBA, so there's so much media scrutiny around you when you go to play with a guy like that. I think that's just not necessarily an attractive thing for a lot of guys to do. I think maybe a little bit more gets made of it than probably is deserved, but I don't think like Anthony Davis is upset that he has to play with LeBron. I'm sure he's probably very happy to get traded to the Lakers, but there is definitely the media scrutiny goes up probably 2 or 3 levels when you play with LeBron. So that could probably turn a lot of guys away, especially with the LA media. I'm sure the LA media can be pretty brutal out there. So.
Yeah, I know. I was out the other night partying with LeBron in Hollywood. He was at Craig's, and I was at the McDonald's about 5 miles down the road, or the In-N-Out Burger.
Oh, there you go.
So, but I was in the same city, so, he was in the vicinity. Yeah. So I'm considering I'm partying with LeBron. So what the hell?
Yeah.
So right now, just before we move on to the Bucks, who do you like better, the Clippers or the Lakers? Just which team? You have to give a big dissertation.
I gotta go Clippers.
Which team? I gotta go Clippers too.
I gotta go Clippers.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the best move that they made was getting Avery Bradley. I think he's a steal for them. He's a 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
He's a great defender. He's, a great player for them. I think that maybe is above Cousins and everybody else. They got Rondo and everybody. I think Bradley's probably the best move they made aside from getting Davis. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
But I think they play each other, if I'm not mistaken, like 3-3 in your own conference. Play 3 home and 3 away.
So they'll play 4 times next year is what it is.
4 times they'll play?
Division,
okay.
Yeah, you'll play 2-2, which doesn't matter because it'll all be in the same building. But
yeah, they're all playing at Staples Center,
Yeah.
So, all right, the Bucks, what did they do?
Yeah, so the Bucks are one of those teams where they're going to be interesting to watch. In theory, they should be very good. They still have Giannis. They put big money into Chris Middleton, huge investment into him. They're counting on him to continue to be that star player next to Giannis. But the team did lose Malcolm Brogdon. And Malcolm Brogdon was one of those special guys, 50-40-90 club. We've only seen 8 guys in NBA history do that. So Malcolm Brogdon was an elite-level player from an efficiency standpoint. So you lose him, they brought back George Hill. They signed Wesley Matthews. So they're not going to take a huge step back because George Hill was good for them down the stretch. I think Wesley Matthews is, at the very least, he can hit an open 3, decent defender.
Well, they kept George Hill, didn't they? They kept George Hill.
Yeah, they brought George Hill back, who was good down the stretch.
And Brook Lopez.
He was a nice piece for them in the playoffs. Yeah, Brook Lopez. They put big money into Brook Lopez as well.
Yeah.
I just don't think, they had they had George Hill last year. They had Brogdon. I think you can make an argument Brogdon was, for at least when he came back for that Eastern Conference Finals matchup with Toronto, that Brogdon was that team's second-best player in that series. He defended Kawhi as well as anyone in the entire playoffs did. I mean, Kawhi struggled when if you want to look at the stats there, and Brogdon defended Kawhi. Kawhi's numbers were significantly worse than what they were against anybody else. So it's not just what Brogdon brings you from an efficiency standpoint, it's what he brings you from a defensive standpoint. I think that's going to be a big loss for the Bucks. I don't think it'll kill them. I think they're still going to be at the top of the East, but that's going to be something interesting to watch because that's a big piece to lose for them.
All right. And Lopez and Matthews, they signed both those guys. Are they going to be assets? I mean, are they going to fill a role? Are they role players?
Yeah, so Wesley Matthews, he's just going to be a role player. He used to be, a high-end quality role player, but he's kind of suffered those injuries. He just hasn't been the same. What he gives you is he's a decent three-point shooter. He'll shoot, 37, 38% from behind the arc, and he's a solid defender. You can't really ask for more from Wesley Matthews. That's what he'll give you. Brook Lopez, again, is a very good shooter. He's kind of an example of where the NBA has gone as far as where centers are at. So instead of being down low, which is where he was early in his career, he now floats around the perimeter and he hits open threes. And he's a very good three-point shooter. He had a very good year for them last year. I think re-signing him, I think they gave him $51 million. I think that was a good move because he was a good player for them. He gives them floor spacing, and he's a solid defender, solid rim protector.
You know what, Cole? I would say today, even at 60 years old, I'm probably a third as good as those guys. Can I get $10 million to go play? I'm about a third as good. It's like he gets $50 million. I'm about a third as good as him. All right, I'm down there. I'm low on the totem pole. I get it, but Jesus, I'll take $10 million to go sit on the end of the bench for the Milwaukee Bucks. Although it's colder than hell up there. All right, so do you think the Bucks are the team to beat in the East? Is that the team to beat still?
To me, I think
as long as you got Giannis, I think you.
Yeah, they still have Giannis, who I think is the best player in the East. Philly's up there. There's questions, though, I think, about how that team's going to fit together. Do they have the shooting? Indiana, there's going to be questions about the injury with Oladipo. They're going to have questions with Sabonis and Turner. We'll talk about that more when we get to them. Boston lost Kyrie and Horford. I don't think they're going to have what it takes. To me, Milwaukee is still the team to beat, with Kawhi leaving Toronto. I think it has to be Milwaukee. To me,
and for Boston, Hayward didn't come back like he was before he.
No, he's not. He's not been.
He's not. Yeah. He's not there. I mean, he didn't come back the way. I mean, but I don't blame him. Geez, that was a devastating injury. So I don't want to knock him in any way, shape, or form. But I don't think he came back the player he was that before he broke that ankle on the first game, of the season 2 years ago. I don't think he'll ever be that player again now. I just don't think so. I mean, he has flashes of brilliance, but we'll get to the Celtics. Okay, now the darlings of the thing here seems to be the Utah Jazz. Everybody seems to think they moved up. Talk about the Jazz.
Yeah, they made some big moves. This is a small market team that, for the most part, they haven't been a big player in free agency historically. But they made some big moves. Mike Conley, I think, is a huge trade for them. They got him from Memphis. That gives them another he's old. Now, so, their timeline here, and they signed Bojan Bogdanovic, who's going to be 30, 31 next season. So they're investing in older guys. So their window is not huge here. But
they're going for now. They're an out team.
Yeah, they're going now. Now, for Mike Conley, he gives them another legitimate scorer, right? Because that's what they needed next to Donovan Mitchell. They didn't have that second go-to scorer. Mike Conley gives them that. Bojan Bogdanovic is an elite shooter. He's a very good scorer. I think he proved that in Indiana. That was Indiana's leading scorer last year when Oladipo went down. So they get him 4 years, $73 million. A lot of money to invest in a guy that age. But, he's a very good offensive player, very good scorer. One of the moves I think that's actually very underrated here is they got Ed Davis because they had to lose. I can't think of his name now. The big man, Derek Favors is his name. So they lost Derek Favors, who was a very good backup big for them. They bring in Ed Davis, who I think has been a very, very good role player throughout his NBA career. That's going to be a big help for them. My one concern here is size-wise, they could have issues. Bojan Bogdanovic, I love him as a player. He's going to have to man the 4 spot for them. He doesn't offer you much in the way of rebounding or post defense. So there's going to be some matchups here where that could be problematic. Bojan Bogdanovic trying to guard Anthony Davis will not be pretty. That could be
so they're going to rely on offense. Basically, they're going to rely on offense to beat.
Yeah, they're going to
be an offensive team with Connolly.
Yeah, they're going to be a run and gun team. Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to be a run and gun team. You know, and Donovan Mitchell. They're going to be a run and gun team, and they're going to come at you offensively.
And to counter that point, yeah. But to help with the Jazz, they do have Rudy Gobert, who's an elite rim protector. So if there's a team that can kind of accept some defensive shortcomings, it's Utah, because Gobert can clean up so much for them on that end.
Yeah. So yeah, they're just going to you're going to have to come in shape and ready to play when you play the Jazz this year, because they're going to run you.
Yeah.
They're going to run you.
There's going to be a lot.
Shot clock's not going to be an issue with that team, probably.
No. There's going to be a lot of floor spacing. Mike Conley, Mitchell, Ingles, Bogdanovich, all of those guys are very, very good three-point shooters. So there's going to be a lot of three-point shooting in that team. They'll be good.
Yep. All right. Rockets, they really didn't make any moves, really. They didn't do much of anything.
No,
they wanted Butler, but I think they did better off not getting Butler, truthfully, I think. But
yeah,
what's your thoughts on
it's going to depend. It's going to depend what they're going to have to give up. For whatever reason, Houston, and I'm a little bit confused about what Houston's trying to do here, because they're putting out all of these trade rumors with like half their roster's been involved. I would think that would just be bad for the team moving forward. There could be some serious chemistry concerns that come as a result of that. And they're involved in the Russell Westbrook saga now. That just came out today. I don't know if you saw that, but they're trying to get a 3-team deal to get Westbrook. So we need to see where Westbrook's gonna go. I assume he's going to be traded.
Well, he would be a good fit at Houston, though. But he would probably be a good fit there.
Yeah, well, it seems like Houston's kind of trying to see if they can get Chris Paul sent out in that deal. Chris Paul's obviously, he took a step back last season. He's an old guy.
Yeah, he's
not the star player that he used to be. We'll see if they can make that work. 3-team deals, especially when you're trying to take in a contract that's as big as Westbrook's, are not easy to figure out. They're going to have to send out a lot of salary to get that. They're going to have to find a taker for Chris Paul. I don't know if he's going to be a hot commodity on the trade market. I don't think there's a lot of teams that are really going to be begging to take Chris Paul in that contract. So we'll see if they can work out something there. They're going to be in the contention for the West. They'll still be a team to watch out there, but in my mind, they're probably the best team in the West. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and so my wife went and looked at Chris Paul's house. It's next door to Khloe Kardashian's house. She wanted to buy it. It was like $11 million. We were only $11 million short of buying it. So.
Almost there.
But she got a tour of it anyway, nonetheless. So I was like, hey, I'll next to a Kardashian. I got no problem there. So no problem at all there. All right. So I think the Rockets have dropped. I don't know if they've been dropped. They've been passed. James Harden still is one of the best players in the game. But I think Chris Paul has fallen off. They didn't do much to add a lot to their. If they can get Westbrook, I think it would be an addition for them. But they're going to pay a lot of money to get him. I mean, and I don't know. I don't want to pay some 34-year-old basketball player $47 million a year. You get into the Alex Rodriguez theory. Then, I think the Yankees are still paying Rodriguez.
Yeah,
they're still paying off his contract.
A ton of money. That's a ton of money.
That's a lot of money for a guy that age in that sport. So,
well, and the Nuggets have been very So Denver.
Go ahead. Finish your sentence. Finish your sentence. Go ahead. Finish your sentence.
Yes. So, but just with Westbrook, the only thing I was going to add is that's a guy that's been very reliant on athleticism in his career.
Yeah.
So when he falls off, he might fall off a little bit harder than most. So that's something to consider there.
Yeah, trust me, it's easier to ride my bike when I was 25, 30 miles, and now I'm 60. If I can get 3 miles, I'm doing pretty good. I'm happy. Age plays a factor in athleticism, so I'm happy. The Nuggets. This is a team that didn't make a lot of moves, but they've got Jokic, whatever his name is. He's legitimate MVP candidate. They re-signed a lot of their own players. Jamal Murray came back. Gary Harrison. We both know Gary well. Gary and your brother and my son played with Gary. We know him well. He's a great kid. Michael Porter. The Nuggets do the right thing and just kind of sticking with their young team. They're the youngest team in the NBA. They do the right thing.
Yeah. So I think it's tough to hit on them for it. They had a very good team last year. I mean, that was a team that very much easily could have been the number one seed in the West. They're investing in these young players and hoping they improve. I think you see that with Jamal Murray. That's an investment in Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray just got a max contract. He's not worth the max contract right now, but what he is, he's a young player, and they're banking on him continuing to improve. They've got a young core. Like you said, they didn't make a ton of moves. They did add Jeremy Grant, who's been a very good role player for the Thunder. That's a good move. That's a very good three-point shooter, good defender, lengthy guy, can play multiple positions. That'll help him out. But, yeah, for this team, it's not going to be a ton of outside improvement. They're kind of banking on this young cast to continue to improve. You brought him up, Michael Porter Jr. I mean, that's the guy that was a top 2 or 3 high school recruit in the country when he came out. But had these injury concerns and fell. I know he got banged up at Summer League again, so we'll kind of see how he can stay together from a health standpoint. But from a potential-wise, that's a guy with a ton of potential they have on their team. It's going to come down to that young core. If they can continue to improve, they'll be in the conversation in the West. A lot of people are forgetting about them because they didn't make the flashy move, but they'll be in contention out West. It's just a lot of teams have made flashy moves, so Denver's kind of fallen under the radar. But this is a very, very good team. They'll be, I think, a top 4 seed in the West.
Yeah, I look at Denver as a team that if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I look at Denver right now. They're young. They're doing it the right way. I mean, they're investing in their future and, maybe become eventually something like a Golden State that can win, be in contention 3 or 4 or 5 years down the road when these guys mature a little bit, get a little stronger, a little smarter. But I think it's a team that says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's how I see Denver. Portland.
Yeah.
They lost a bunch of players.
Yeah. Portland's going to be, that's another team that didn't necessarily make the flashy moves. They're mostly kind of trying to rely on that same core they had last year. They're banking on C.J. McCollum, on Damian Lillard continuing to be those star players for them. Good. They made the Western Conference Finals last year. A lot of people didn't see that coming. Again, I just when I look at this roster, it doesn't scream. I just don't think they compare to the top. I really don't think. Not with the moves the Clippers, the Lakers have made. I would put Utah above them. Denver is going to be another interesting team to watch. I think Seth Curry is a big loss. That's a very, very good role player, very, very good shooter. They added Kent Bazemore. It's a good addition for them. Hassan Whiteside, it gives them a little bit of depth down low. And I know they needed that when they lost Nurkic to an injury in the playoffs. So they'll be an interest. Again, I think they're a team who kind of similar to Golden State. They're just going to probably fall back, not necessarily due to losing talent, but just because I think teams around them have improved. I don't think this team, on paper, is going to be a real contender to come out of the West. But they were trying to get Kevin Love. Any word on that? Yeah.
Are they going to get him or any chance on that?
I haven't seen anything
either.
Imminent about Kevin Love. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that in a long time.
He would be a good addition to that team.
Well, you would think he would be in the trade block. He really doesn't fit what Cleveland's trying to do right now.
No.
So you would think he'd be available for trade. The question is going to be, I think asset-wise, do they have what it takes to pull it off? Their first-round pick is probably going to be late first-round picks. They don't have a ton of young players really that they're willing to give up probably to acquire an older guy like Kevin Love. They're going to be – they're kind of in a – I almost worry almost a no man's land where they're going to be good enough to make the playoffs, maybe get to the second round of the playoffs. I don't see them going any farther than that, though.
Yeah. All right. Celtics. My interpretation of Celtics is they kind of got in desperation mode. They lost Harford and they lost Irving, and they got Kemba Walker, who's a great player, but they kind of got into a situation where they kind of got the rug pulled out from under them in this whole free agency deal. What are your thoughts on that, on the Celtics?
Yeah, I Kemba is obviously a great player. He'll help them out. If you were going to lose Kyrie Irving, Kemba Walker is probably, the guy you would go to that can at least get as close to replacing Kyrie Irving as you possibly can. He's not the caliber of player Kyrie Irving is, but he probably doesn't have the baggage Kyrie Irving brings with him. Kyrie obviously wasn't happy in Boston at the end of the season. Kemba seems to want to be there. So that's another dynamic to look at. There's, he may not be the caliber of player, but he'll be happy. He may not be a disruptive presence there. But Al Horford is a big loss. That's a big team leader there. Defensively, he was a great, great player. And they bring in Enes Kanter, who, decent low post scorer, good rebounder, awful defender, though. I worry about this team from a size standpoint. They seem to have a ton of wings. Down low, they don't have a lot there. They bring in Enes Kanter, who's an awful, awful defender. Aaron Baines is gone from that team. I just don't know if this team is really going to be as good as they were last year with Kyrie. I know people think that Kemba Walker can replace a lot of what he gives you, but Al Horford's a big loss. I don't think the front court depth is there for Boston. And, I just think this team is almost kind of living off those young players that had very good playoff runs a couple of years ago. But last season was disappointing for a lot of those guys. We didn't see them make those jumps that kind of people thought they would. This was a team last season people looked at as a favorite in the East, and they really were a disappointment, to be blunt. They do have young players that can improve. But, we need to see, can those young players have to improve? And they didn't make the jump they were supposed to make last season. Is that jump coming this season, or did people just get too high on those guys? That's something we're going to have to watch. You talked about it a little bit earlier, too. Gordon Hayward has just not been the same player he used to be. I'm not sure if he'll ever be that guy again.
And they invest a lot of money in it, too.
Yeah, that contract they gave him is big. We'll see what they do moving forward. I'm not too high in this team. I think they'll be a 4 or 5 seed in the East, but I don't see this team competing with a Milwaukee or a Philadelphia next season.
And they've got a great coach in Brad Stevens. We all know Brad Stevens. Yeah. So here's a sidebar question for you: if this team starts to be mediocre, you're also our IU reporter for basketball.
Yeah.
There's talk that Archie is kind of getting on a hot seat all of a sudden. Is this something that Brad Stevens might be interested in? I mean, it's an opinion. It's not a statement or a fact. But is this something that Brad would say, if IU comes open, I'd go down and coach IU basketball? I mean, is that a viable option, or is it just fantasy?
Also, I think
and I like Archie Miller, so I want to say that first. I don't have a problem with Archie Miller.
I don't want
it takes time to build a program.
Archie Miller, I don't want to say this in a way it's like Archie Miller's going to be gone, because I don't think that's fair to him.
I don't either.
Yeah, but if that scenario were to pass and they're looking for a new coach, I think Indiana would be stupid not to explore that possibility, to at least get in touch with them and say, hey, are you interested in this? And like you said, if things are falling apart in Boston and he can't get this team to where they want to go, maybe there's a window of opportunity. But there's always been those rumors that Brad Stevens doesn't like the college coaching. He doesn't like the recruiting aspect of it. So, and I'm sure if Boston doesn't work out, I'm sure if he wanted to, he could find a new coaching job in the NBA. So that's
no doubt. Yeah, he's one of the best coaches. Yeah, he's one of the best basketball coaches in the game today. Yeah. So he's not going to land on his feet wherever he goes. I just know that the times that I've had the privilege to talk to Stevens, in what little conversations I've ever had with him, he doesn't like recruiting. He doesn't like the whole deal of recruiting.
Yeah,
that's not his style. He doesn't like going to homes and begging and groveling to get players to come to school. And right now Indiana's down, but we'll save that for another show. We'll save it for an IU basketball show. The Nets. Now everybody thought the Nets did marvelous. They got Kyrie. They got Durant. Durant's not going to play next year. Did the Nets make the right moves?
They made some interesting moves. I'll say this. If it works out, okay, if Kyrie can stay happy, if Durant can stay happy, they'll be, probably on paper the best team in the East. If Durant comes back to the player he was, in 2 years, they'll be the best team in the East. Next year, I don't think they will be. Now, here's the issue, okay? Durant just went to Golden State, a situation in which he was being coached by Steve Kerr, who everybody loves, and he didn't get along with him. He didn't like him. Oklahoma City, apparently he didn't get along with anybody. Nobody liked him. He's been jumping around. He's been a bit of a head case to where nobody has really gotten along well with him. And then you add a guy like Kyrie Irving, who's had those same issues. In Cleveland, he was causing issues. He goes to Boston, he causes issues. Now he goes to Brooklyn. That's a very, very good duo from a basketball skill standpoint. That's a very, very scary duo from an off-the-court standpoint. I mean, also that's, there's a lot of potential for that to go wrong. That being said, this is a Brooklyn team that they weren't really going anywhere with the roster they had. So, I think this is the move you have to make. They add a ton of talent. They add what is probably the second or third best player in the league in Durant when he's healthy. It's a move that, regardless of the risks you have to take. I don't think this team is going to be contending for anything next season. But in 2 years, Durant comes back healthy and they can keep Kyrie Irving happy. I think they made the right move. But they kicked the Knicks under the bus. So that's all that really matters.
Yeah,
they did blow off the Knicks.
They blew off the Knicks big time. All right.
Matters.
How big a hit did the Warriors take? I mean, it seems pretty major.
Well, yeah, especially in the regular season when we have to see when Klay Thompson's going to get back. ACL injuries, you never know how fast the guys – timetables can be different from guy to guy.
Right,
so it's going to depend where Klay Thompson comes back, when he comes back. Certainly next season.
Well, they're talking the playoffs now. I mean, what I'm hearing is playoffs, right?
Yeah. So certainly there's going to be a big drop-off there. Durant's gone. They add D'Angelo Russell, but I don't think that's a long-term piece for them. Again, I think that's someone that you probably won't see on their roster come the end of next season. And it's not just this top guys. People are going to talk about Durant leaving. But a lot of that depth is gone. Iguodala is gone. Quinn Cook is gone. Sean Livingston's another guy.
Cousins is gone.
Yeah, Cousins is gone. The depth that that team had, which was one of their biggest strengths, because it wasn't just a top-heavy team. They had they had good depth top to bottom. Jordan Bell is gone as well. To me, I think you'll see them in that 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8 seed range. I think there will be a significant drop-off from this team. I think they're a playoff team. They're going to be a playoff team. But
do you think they are? That's this question I'm going to ask you. Do you think they're a playoff team?
I do think they're a playoff team. I think Steph Curry is good enough to get this team in the playoffs. They do have Draymond Green. D'Angelo Russell, even though I don't think he's a long-term piece,
addition,
another very good wing player that will help them stay
Russell's
close.
Something they already had. They gave up things that they've lost, and they replaced it with things they already had, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I think this team's a playoff team still. I'm not going to go as far to say as this team will completely miss out in the playoff, but I think we'll still see this team sneak in. But it'll be where they've been a 1-2 seed previous years. You'll see them sneaking in at the back end of the playoffs, I think.
All right. So you think they are a playoff team? I'm questioning whether they're even a playoff team right now.
I think
because
this team
when you have one player like Steph Curry, I mean, you can guard him.
Yeah.
I mean, you just throw somebody on him and keep the 3-point shot away from him, and put him up tough up front, and you can shut him down fairly easy.
Yeah. Well, and that's where the D'Angelo Russell addition. Let's not forget, this guy was an all-star in the East. He's a very, very good player. Had his best season of his career. If he can continue, I mean, he got a max contract for 4 years, almost $120 million for a reason. Very, very good player. I think because of that, what you just said about how teams focusing on Steph, that's why they go and get a D'Angelo Russell that can take some pressure off him. So we'll see how that works out for them.
They've got Klay Thompson and
they've got Klay.
Steph
Draymond Green is
max
still there.
Contract, so they're done.
Yeah.
They can't get another max contract.
Yeah, no, Draymond Green is still there as well.
Team, correct?
Yeah. So I think this is a playoff team. I don't think this is a serious contender like they've been. I think the Golden State dynasty is done. This team, I don't think we will not be seeing them in the finals next year.
Agree. Yeah, it's going to be one of the Los Angeles teams, I think.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to our beloved team, the Pacers. Everybody says they did phenomenal in this free agency market. They did great. They improved their team. What are your thoughts? And that's, I'm from Indianapolis. You're from Indianapolis. It's our team. I'm still a Pacers fan. I just bought 2 new Pacers T-shirts a couple weeks ago on eBay for $10. So
there you go.
Don't buy anything at the Pacers gift shop. Jesus Christ, you pay $40 for a T-shirt. I bought for $10 on eBay. Same T-shirt.
Yeah. So the Pacers I think they made some very good moves here. What they did is this had the potential, I think, to be a very, very dangerous summer for them. They lost a lot of pieces. They lost Thaddeus Young. He goes to Chicago. Bojan Bogdanovic, we talked about, goes to Utah. Darren Collison retires. Corey Joseph leaves. But what they lost was a lot of guys that were 30, 31-year-olds, those older players. They were able to sign a guy like Jeremy Lamb, who I think is a steal at 3 years, $30 million. This is a guy who scored 15 points per game in Charlotte. I think if you watch the Pacers last year, what they had, one of their biggest issues, when Oladipo went down, Tyreek Evans was kind of that guy that was supposed to, a guy who can create his own shot, score the basketball. He was obviously a huge disappointment last year. Obviously had those drug issues that led to him getting suspended from the league. They add a guy like Jeremy Lamb, who is a very, very good shot creator. That's one thing he does extremely well is he creates his own shot. He can get to the line. He can score the basketball from anywhere in the court. Get him at $10 million a year with some of these other contracts that are being tossed around, I think is a steal for them. That's a guy that can come in, start for Oladipo when he's hurt. When Oladipo comes back, he can shift into the bench as a sixth man, a very good sixth man at that. But obviously, the Pacers' main move of the offseason is going to be Malcolm Brogdon from Milwaukee. And I'll try not to be too biased here, but I love this move. I think when Oladipo's healthy, Brogdon and Oladipo might be the best defensive backcourt in the NBA. I mean, those are two elite-level defenders. If you really want to look at Brogdon's ability defensively, look at what he did when he guarded Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs. I mean, Kawhi Leonard shot, below 40% when he was getting guarded by Brogdon in the playoffs. He made Kawhi Leonard struggle, which is something no one else was able to do. He's, like I said, 50, 40, 90 member. Only 8 guys in NBA history have done that, and Malcolm Brogdon is one of those 8 guys. He's an extremely efficient player.
Paid a lot of money for him.
4 years, $85 million is a lot of money. And that should tell you a lot, I think, about how the Pacers view Brogdon, because the Pacers are not a team that's, makes big free agent signings.
No, they don't.
So for them, for them to put all that money in Brogdon says a lot about how they think about him. I know he has foot issues, which we're going to have to watch, but he's a guy that fits perfectly next to Oladipo. He can play on the ball. He can play off the ball. Very, very good shooter, spreads the floor. And when Oladipo's back, he can take some pressure off him. What they needed a perimeter guy that can take the pressure off Oladipo, and Brogdon can do that. I know they lost Bogdanovic, who's a scorer, but I think Brogdon, Lamb, and don't forget the addition of T.J. Warren, I think, is kind of underrated. That's a 40+% three-point shooter. That was a 20-point-per-game guy for Phoenix a couple of years ago, 18 points per game this past season. He's only 25 years old. That's one of the big changes the Pacers made. It's not just losing guys that were 30, 31, but they're replacing them with 25, 26-year-olds that line up with the age group of their core, with Sabonis, with Miles Turner, Oladipo. Those guys are all, early to mid-20s. So they're replacing them with guys that are, in my opinion, talent upgrades, but also younger players. So, and the big thing with Indiana is going to be how Oladipo comes back. Is he 100% healthy?
Yeah,
and
I had 2 questions
how
for
Sabonis and Miles Turner.
Yeah.
How Sabonis and Miles Turner work together, because they're invested in them as a front court. Kind of similar to Philly, Indiana's going big in the front court. How will that work out for them?
Yeah, so here's my 2 questions for you on the Pacers, because this is our team. I mean, like I said, I love the Pacers. I'll be a Pacers fan till I die. That's my home team, even though I live in Los Angeles. Is there any concern that Oladipo's not going to come back at 100%?
Yeah, there definitely has to be concern. this was not a typical injury. It's a very, very rare injury. So you never really know how the guy is going to come back from that. I mean, even ACL injuries can have that similar effect where you don't know how guys are going to come back from. He's expected to be back, at some point next season. It seems like December or January is when the Pacers are shooting. From what I've gathered, Oladipo kind of wants to return earlier than that, but the Pacers may not let him. They may force him to sit out a little bit longer than when Victor thinks he'll be ready, just to make sure he's good to go. By all accounts, from what I'm reading about it, they say he's ahead of schedule. And, I'll say this for Victor. He seems to be one of those elite-level athletes where, if he's ahead of schedule, some guys' bodies just, they're freaks of nature, and they can recover from anything. And Victor very well could be that kind of a guy. But, there are going to be very serious questions about him. That's a very, very serious injury. Oladipo's a guy that was an athletic freak. If his athleticism takes a hit, that'll be something to watch, because that was a big part of his game. He is a good outside shooter to make up for it, so we'll see how he comes back if he has to change his game at all. But, his health is going to be a concern to me.
Okay, and then the second question I had for you is McMillan the right coach for this team, or because they're such a young team, would they be better off with somebody a little more fatherly-like, or are you happy with McMillan as a coach?
McMillan's an
interesting. Coaching get them into the finals.
Yeah,
I don't think he is.
That's an interesting. I'm not sure if he is either. I'm not sold on McMillan. What McMillan's going to have to do is offensively, he's going to need to change this team. You love what this team does defensively. They've been very good, but offensively they haven't really adjusted to the new NBA. Last year they were towards the bottom of the NBA in scoring, in three-point shooting, and in scoring they were towards the bottom. When Oladipo went down, the offense was just pitiful last year. It could not adjust to his loss. So they're going to have to change that. I mean, they're going to have to change some things offensively to make this work. Nate McMillan, couldn't make those changes last year. So he's going to have to change some things this year to get that to work. Now, I like what they've done this offseason. T.J. Warren, very good shooter. They bring him in. Malcolm Brogdon, elite-level shooter. They bring him in. Jeremy Lamb can shoot the ball. So they brought in shooters to try to help with their issues shooting the ball last season. And another thing that's going to be interesting to watch, again, I mentioned it earlier, the Sabonis-Miles Turner pairing. That's a pairing Nate McMillan did not want to play them together very much last year, or even a couple years ago when they're together. It's a pairing you very rarely saw together. So, and he's going to have to play them now. So, I mean, that's
are you a little disappointed in the consistency of Miles Turner? I mean, he has flashes of brilliance, but then he vanishes for games. So it's like you don't see him.
Yeah. So
I mean, go ahead.
He's the guy that I thought, everyone potential-wise, he's off the charts because he's the perfect center for today's NBA. He's a mobile guy. He can move well. He's a very, very good outside shooter. He shot, almost 40% from three last year, and a very, very good rim protector. But like you said, there's some inconsistency to his game, especially offensively, that can just drive you crazy. Like you said, he disappears. I mean, he can disappear sometimes offensively, and I think that's kind of where people take issue with McMillan, is you have a young guy like Miles Turner, and he was really not made a vocal point of the offense at all. He disappeared not just because I don't think he's necessarily a very assertive player, but there was very little offense being run to get Miles Turner in the game. They very rarely made it an emphasis of let's get Miles involved in this game. And I think that can kind of frustrate some people when you look at the potential Miles has in that end. That being said, though, I still think Miles is a very good player. The fact that he did not make an All-NBA defensive team, I think, is an absolute joke. I mean, this is a guy that led the league in blocks. In my mind, he should have been one of the finalists for Defensive Player of the Year, let alone not making an All-NBA defensive team. That blows my mind. He's an elite-level defender, and he brings that to the game every night. So I think regardless of what his inconsistency on offense, he still is a very good defensive player and has very, very real value in that end. so we'll see how they use him because he's going to have to change his game next year. Domantas Sabonis is going to live in the paint. He'll eat teams alive in the paint. So Turner's going to have to be more of a floor spacer, and he has the shooting ability to do that. He's a very, very good outside shooter, but he's going to have to change his game a little bit to make that Sabonis-Turner pairing work.
Right, and who's the great center for Houston? I'm drawing a blank right now just for 10 seconds. I'm 60.
Clint Capella?
No, the old center.
Are you talking the Yao Ming?
No, the big guy.
Going back and forth.
Jesus Christ, I can't think of his name. Start with an O.
Hakeem Olajuwon?
Olajuwon.
Yeah, Hakeem Olajuwon.
He's cut in that same mold as Olajuwon. Now, he's not the same talent as Olajuwon because, he was a great center, but he's cut in that same kind of mold. And I think he's being underutilized, but it seems to me with Turner, the more pressure you put on him, the better he performs. It's kind of, cause we get Pacer games out here, even in Los Angeles. I see a lot of Pacer games. And the more pressure you put when you just kind of let him sit back and be just non-existent, he's non-existent. But when you say you got to go do something, he steps up his game big time. So I think McMillan's got to find a way to step that up. I think that's the biggest key for the Pacers. So are they in contention with Milwaukee and the Sixers for the East Coast, Eastern Conference?
If Oladipo's healthy, yes. If Oladipo's not the same player, I don't think they're in that conversation. Be. Yeah, if there's a guy, I know Victor not just from his time for the Pacers, but back at IU. I mean, he's going to work his ass off to get back. If anyone's going to come back 100%, it'll be him. And he's posted some videos. Actually, if you want to watch them, they're very fascinating to watch about his recovery. And like I said, by all accounts, but what the trainers are saying, the guys working with him, he's way ahead of schedule, way ahead of where they thought he would be. So I have confidence that he can come back. And if he is, I think this team is very much in contention. People forget before Oladipo went down, this team was the 3rd seed in the East. I mean, they are a very good team. They were on pace for 50-plus wins. Now, when Oladipo went down, they fell off. They didn't have a guy that can create his own shot, create offense. They bring in Malcolm Brogdon, who helps in that end. They bring in Jeremy Lamb. This team, in my opinion, they don't have the star talent maybe that Philadelphia has, but what they do have is top to bottom. That starting 5 is just very, very good players. They can all spread the floor. Everyone on that starting 5 can shoot. It's a big lineup. But Miles Turner's elite defensively. Like I've talked about earlier, the Brogdon-Oladipo pairing is arguably the best defensive backcourt in the NBA. That's a nightmare for teams defensively. Yeah. I think if Oladipo comes back healthy, this team very much is in contention for the East with Milwaukee and Philly.
Yeah, and I want to throw a shout-out right now to Tom Crean because, Tom Crean coached Indiana basketball for 9 years. And, he put all these guys in the NBA. OG is up in Toronto, going to be a star there. Oladipo, you got the big center at Charlotte. What's his name?
Cody
Zeller. I mean, he's put a lot of guys. I mean, who's the guy just signed with the Bullets?
Thomas Bryant.
Thomas Bryant. I mean, he's put more players in the NBA than Knight ever did. So you got to throw a shout out to Tom Crean for doing that. And he developed players to go to the next level. And so Tom, if you ever listen to our show, which I know you probably he follows me. I'm sure he doesn't listen to the show, but great job of getting guys ready to go and make impact in the NBA. Because Knight never really, if you look at all the Knight players, other than Isaiah and maybe Woody and Whitman. Not many of the Knight players ever really did a lot in the NBA. I mean, Kent Benson goes in and gets his face matched in on the first play of the game. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in a preseason game. So kudos to Tom Crean for doing that, and that's great. All right, let's move down the list quickly now because we're getting into the situation now where we've been on the air a while. The Kings, did they do anything? They got Kyle Guy, who's the second leading scorer of all time at Lawrence Central High School. You know who the first is?
Yeah.
Who's
Not
first?
you. Definitely not you. Can't be you.
Oh, it's me. Yeah. I'm the leading scorer still at Lawrence Central High School all the time. I did it in 3 years. He needed 4 years and couldn't catch me. But, anyway. The Kings do anything significant. Let's just run down through these teams quickly now.
No, I don't see a lot there. Kyle Guy is obviously Indiana ties.
He's not a game changer.
Yeah, second round pick. He's not going to do a whole lot there. They lost Willie Cauley-Stein, but that's they re-signed Harrison Barnes. It's about the only two moves they made.
Okay, the Pelicans. Obviously, they got the number one pick. They got Zion Williamson.
Zion.
He's already sitting out with a knee. Well, and I wouldn't play him either. I don't blame him for that. I wouldn't screw around with him for that. They lost Antonio Davis, but they got a lot of draft picks. So this is a team of the future, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, well, and especially the young players. They got two. Lonzo Ball is now a Pelican. Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, Derek Favors. They acquired him from the Jazz. I know they lost Julius Randle. But
they got J.J. Redick.
Very good team. Yeah, J.J. Redick they signed to a contract. This is going to be a team that you thought was going to be in full rebuild mode that could sneak into the playoffs next year with the roster they have.
Oh, I think they'll make the playoffs. I think they'll make the playoffs.
Yeah, they're a very, very interesting team. They've really rebuilt on the fly. It's impressive what they've managed to do with this roster.
But they got like 5 first-round picks. Didn't they get like some kind of enormous number of first-round picks?
Yeah, I don't think it was 5. So the team that got
5, whatever the number was,
was Oklahoma City. I forget how many first-round picks they got.
But they've got a cachet of them, so they can build.
Yeah,
this team's in a building mode right now, building around Zion Williamson.
They got Jackson Hayes in a trade for a first-round pick as well this past season. He was the number 8 pick. So they even got him, another young player along with Zion to build around.
All right, the Raptors, how big a hit did they take?
Oh, that took a huge hit. This is a team that, if Kawhi re-signs in Toronto, they're the favorite in the East, and he leaves, and now this is a team that, is going to probably be a 6 or 7 seed in the East. They've got still some good players there. I don't want to count them out completely from the playoffs. I don't think they took that big of a hit. This is still a team that even last season, Kawhi sat out a lot of games last year. And this was a above 500 team without Kawhi. But that being said, it's a lot tougher to you lose Kawhi here and there to go and then have to lose him for the entire season. They've still got Pascal Siakam's a good player, Kyle Lowry's a good player, OG Anunoby's a guy, another IU guy who they're very high on. He couldn't play in last season's playoffs. He'll be back next season. Serge Ibaka, Marc Gasol are both back. Yeah, they also lost Danny Green as well, which is a big loss. This will still be a playoff team, I think, but this will not be a team that's contending in the East. They'll drop back probably 6, 7 seed.
Magic, okay, the Orlando Magic did nothing basically.
Yeah, they re-signed Vukovic to a pretty hefty contract, and I know they acquired Al-Farouq Aminu. But again, this is just going to be a team that the ceiling here is not very high. You'll see them competing for that 8 seed like we saw last season.
All right, the Pistons.
Yeah, again, Detroit's another one of those teams similar to Miami where they're kind of in the Russell Westbrook sweepstakes, so we could see this team look very, very different over the next couple of weeks. But they signed Derrick Rose. It's pretty much the only significant move they've made. So, he had a good year last year. Good to see a guy like that kind of starting to recover from that injury he had. But, again, another team that the ceiling here is not too high. Again, another team competing in front of those last few playoff seats.
All right, Mavericks, they've got Doncic and Porzingis. They re-signed Kyber. But Kiva's got to spend some money. If a guy's a billionaire, he's being kind of tight with his money. Not with the college was an idiot.
Yeah.
We dated the same girl at one time.
Really?
That's my claim to fame. We dated the same girl.
There you go. This is a team that's investing in Porzingis.
I got the girl. He got the money.
Yeah, unfortunately, he probably got a little bit better of a trade-off.
Yeah, I think he did all right. Yeah.
he may have won that deal, but
because it's not the girl I married. So there's a big problem.
Oh no. He won that trade-off there, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but,
he won that one. Touche. Well played, Mark.
But we'll see this team go with Porzingis and Doncic. That's their young core they're going to build around. This team's not. I mean, good again. Two very good young players there. They're not ready to contend for the West, but they're young players. Moving forward 3, 4, 5 years from now, they have Tim Hardaway Jr., who's very young as well. You could see this core continue to grow together over the next few years, and maybe you can see them make a run in the West, sometime in the near future.
All right, Timberwolves did really nothing.
Yeah, they're going to be bad again. I know they've been looking for a way to try to get rid of Andrew Wiggins' salary, but again, not a whole lot they did from a free agency standpoint. They drafted Jarrett Culver in the draft with the number 6 pick. This is a team that, again, there's talent here. Karl-Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins, two very talented players, but they just haven't been able to figure it out together as a duo. And at this point, I don't think anyone's counting on them figuring it out.
The Heat, I think they got cancer. I just don't think Jimmy Butler is a guy that I would really want to add to my team because he's an individual. I mean, he's not, he doesn't understand team concept. I think he's all about himself. I don't know, maybe that's what they needed. Maybe that's what they want in Miami. But what are your thoughts on Jimmy Butler going to the
I think he'll help. I don't want to say he'll be a net negative. I see where you're coming from with there's obviously been issues with Jimmy Butler in a lot of places. But, again, he's a very good closer. He's a star Miami hasn't had since the Big Three. And I think he makes Miami a playoff team. I don't think Miami's a serious threat to come out of the East. I don't think they're one of the top-end teams. But I think he'll give them, he'll get them into the playoffs. And outside of that, I don't think he'll offer them a lot more than that.
I don't think so. I think Miami doesn't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I'm going to disagree with you there. The Thunder, they got smacked. That went from a team that was the darling of the NBA a few years ago with all the stars they had in Oklahoma City, of all places, which I drove through Oklahoma City to move to Los Angeles, and it's a quiet little town.
Yeah.
I'm going to be, but now they've lost everybody. Yeah. I think this team's not – I think Oklahoma City is not in Oklahoma City in 3 years. I think they're going to move.
Yeah,
but they took a big hit here.
Yeah, no, they're in full-on rebuild mode. But I'll give them credit. You get 5 first-round picks. They get a very, very promising young player in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from the Clippers, who that's a young guy. Obviously, when you're going full rebuild mode, you want young players that can have potential to be very, very good players. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is that guy. 5 first-round picks. They're going to be in big trouble in the near future. It seems like Westbrook is soon to be up the door. But moving forward, they got a big package for Paul George. So moving forward, they can rebuild. They have enough assets to rebuild this team.
Yeah, this is a team that's going to have to get a bigger market to attract players. I don't think Oklahoma City. They're going to have to move. They have the essentials. They have the draft picks. They have cap space. They have a lot of things now, but I think to attract players, they're going to need to get to a big market somewhere that doesn't have an NBA team that players are going to want to come to. And I don't think it's going to be Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
I predict within 3 years this team moves out of Oklahoma City and goes somewhere. I don't even begin to know where. Maybe a second team in Chicago, another team in Florida, wherever but I think they have all the resources available to them. They have the draft picks. and they've got, they're rebuilding, but I think they're going to have to get out of Oklahoma City to make that happen, because that's probably the smallest market in the NBA, I would guess. Even smaller than Indianapolis. Yeah,
certainly up there.
Yeah, so all right, the Hawks did really nothing.
Yeah, they're that's a rebuilding team. I know they added DeAndre Hunter, so Cam Reddish as well. They're a young team. With Trae Young, they're going to have a young core. They're going to continue to build around. But again, a team that's clearly not going to be in the playoffs next year, I don't think.
No, Trae Young looked good yesterday at the ESPY, so I saw him on the red carpet walk. Yeah, he looked good.
Yeah.
He dressed nice. The Bulls, nothing really from the Bulls.
No. I mean, that's a team that is, again, in the middle of a rebuild. Thaddeus Young is a nice leader to add to that team, but Kobe White, they drafted in the top 10. But, again, that's a team that they're going to continue to rebuild. They're going to continue to be a lottery team probably for the next couple of years and wait for an opportunity to maybe get a star player. It's a big market. They can attract guys, but I don't think they're very close to being in position to get one of those top-end players.
Here's the question. Could Chicago hold a second NBA team? They got the Cubs and the White Sox. I mean, could they hold the Bulls and the Thunder? Could they hold two NBA teams in Chicago? It's a big city. It's like the third or fourth biggest city in the United States.
Yeah, market-wise, they could. I mean, the Bulls get tremendous support. I know they sell out their arena every game. Even when they're bad. They're up. Top 2-3 teams in the NBA in attendance per game. So they do a tremendous job of selling out their arena. They have support year in and year out. Can it support a second team? I don't think there's really any question it could. But will we see the Thunder move? I don't know if we will. Certainly, it's a very, very small market, but they just moved there not too long ago.
They're going to move.
Yeah,
they can't sustain. They can't without the superstars. They can't sustain their existence in Oklahoma City. They can't do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the big boon to the small markets has been the TV contracts that has made these smaller markets viable just because of how much money they bring in TV contracts. But, I mean, certainly Oklahoma City is one of the smallest markets in the NBA. How much support they get? TV money is
distributed evenly. I get that. I get that and everything. But still, it's attractiveness to the players. Like, how much endorsement deals can they get out of Oklahoma City? Why do you think that George and everybody goes to L.A.? And why do you think LeBron went to L.A.? I mean, LeBron's making movies now. He's producing TV shows. He's fucking 50-50 on basketball and being a Hollywood icon. Like I said, my son got asked to work on his new movie, Space Jam 2. And, he's out here for the right reasons. There's money to be made outside of basketball, which is more sustaining for these guys. There's no money to be made outside of that in Oklahoma City. So I say within 3 years, Oklahoma City loses its team. They're going to move them somewhere. That's just my opinion.
We'll see what happens, especially these next couple of years, and see how much support they can get in that city. Because it seems like Westbrook's going to be shipped out of there, so this will be a rebuilding team. And certainly if their support falls off, if ticket sales go down and all of that, certainly the teams are going to look at moving from there.
Yeah, and here's the deal. I'll give you an example. And, again, we're kind of going off tangent a little bit here, but, I follow NASCAR a lot. And NASCAR made over $2 billion in television rights, and they made about $45 million for the season in ticket sales. People are watching stuff on TV now.
Yep.
I mean, they're not going to the games. I mean, Oklahoma City, what else is there to do there? Really?
Yeah,
but I use NASCAR as an example of the money there in the Big Ten Network. I mean, you're paying $52 million for IU football and sports. Two teams that went 500 at best, and they're getting $52 million. The money's in TV, so you're going to go to a big market somewhere where you can, and the players are going to want to go to a market where they can go and sell their own image to themselves and get paid for that. And Oklahoma City's not one of those places. So I think they're toast.
Yeah.
The Knicks took us. I'm gonna just have fun with the Knicks. Go ahead. Let's wrap it up with the Knicks, basically, because
they failed in just about every metric they could possibly fail at this offseason. You know, I'll give them credit. I don't think it's the Knicks, so you'd think they'd be prone to giving out some really idiotic contracts, and at least they weren't able to do that. And the Knicks are a team that they're giving out 2-year deals here. They're, again, banking on 2021 free agency. But, a couple of years ago, they were talking about we're banking on the 2019 free agency, and look how that turned out for them. So, this is a team that's rebuilding team. You'll see them bottom of the East yet again, or, one of the bottom 2 or 3 teams out there. They've got some good players. Julius Randle, who had a very good year last year. That's about all the good I can say about them. It's a very bad team. They had been talking
about
2019 free agency. Yeah, this has been the year. They had talked about this for years. This is the year. I think I mentioned this to you the other day. I've never seen a team release a statement to calm down their fans 2 hours into free agency.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever happened before, and the Knicks did that. So that speaks volumes about where they are as a franchise right now.
Well, what the old saying is, never in the life of God has there ever been somebody that's been told to calm down by being told to calm down. I mean, it's kind of like, they screwed up. The guy didn't want to spend, but justifiably. I mean, Durant is an unknown right now. I mean, you don't know where he's going to come from. He's an unknown. Irving's a kind of a head case. So, do you want to sink all that money into these guys when you don't even really going to have them? And Brooklyn took a chance on them, so good for them. But the Knicks just said it's a 50-50 deal there. I kind of don't blame them, but they've got to do something. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's broke, so fix it.
Fix it, yeah.
They got to do something. The Knicks need to do something. You can't have New York Knicks not being a power player in the NBA. That's all I'll say with that.
Yeah, I'll give the Knicks – the only thing I'll give them credit for is when they missed on those stars, at least they didn't go out and give these stupid contracts to just try to do something. They took their losses and they put themselves in a position to not, be hurt by these bad contracts down the line. So, at least they had the sense to do that.
Phoenix Suns did really nothing.
Yeah, Ricky Rubio got a hefty contract from them. They finally got a point guard to allow Devin Booker to move to his more natural position. But, that's another team that's just been bad for so long.
They're counting on DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah.
Ayton, they're counting on him to be a player. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. These guys, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't see that.
I don't know. I mean,
too much noise.
He's messed up in the Adidas scandal money deal thing and whatever. I don't know. Cavaliers did nothing.
Yeah. I mean, again, bottom dweller of the East. They've got.
They're going to stay there for a long time now.
Yeah, they're in a full-on rebuild. Kevin Love is going to be an interesting piece to watch there because he seems like a guy that could go on the trade market very quickly.
They need to trade him. They need to get rid of him. And, I mean, I think they need to just get some resources for him. Trade him to somebody that, like the Lakers or the Clippers or Portland or Utah or somebody that can win tomorrow. And they just get the resources, kind of like what the Pelicans did a little bit in giving up, Davis, or what the Thunder did in giving up Paul George. They just built they've got a reserve pool now. And I think the Cleveland needs to go in that mode real quick. Agreed?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't fit their timeline. I know they acquired 3 first-round picks this season, and obviously they have young talent there. This is a team on a full-on rebuild. Kevin Love's in the end of his career now. they've got to flip him for some kind of assets. Like you said, a team that, is trying to make that move that puts them over the top, whether that's now or whether that's the trade deadline. There should be a team that's willing to take a risk on him.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams want him. It just seems like Cleveland doesn't want to give him up. I mean, they're banking on him as their drawing card, but he's not a Michael Jordan. He's not a drawing card. I think he's better trade bait. Move him out and get some resources, get some draft picks, rebuild your team, get a good coach in there, and just say we're 3 or 4 years back from being good again.
He'll be long gone. He'll be long gone from that team way before they're ever ready to compete.
I would love fit in at the Pacers.
I don't see it. I don't think the Pacers want to absorb that cap, and I think they're committed to that Sabonis, that Turner partnership, and they just drafted Goga Padadze with the first-round pick. I don't think Indiana's in the market for another big right now.
All right. Okay. The Grizzlies, they got Jay Morant. Is he going to make a difference there or not? I don't think he will.
Maybe in a few years, but this, next season, no. They shipped out Mike Conley. That's another team that's going full-on rebuild here. I know they took in Andre Iguodala, who I would assume they're going to release at some point, but they got a first-round pick for that. They took picks from the Wizards for Dwight Howard. This is a team that's full-on rebuilding right now, and we'll see them kind of bottoming out here for the next few years with, trying to get these high-end draft picks and try to rebuild this team as quickly as possible.
All right, and then we wrap it up with the Hornets. This is Michael Jordan's team. Now, in my opinion, and I've said this all along, guys like Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, they're great players. They played the game at a level that nobody really understands, and we'll never get to that level. But here's a team who did absolutely nothing to improve their team in the draft. This is Michael Jordan, and he controls this team. Should players really be involved in administrative responsibilities of the teams, or look at Jordan, and Johnson got booted out of the Lakers, basically. You can call it what you want to call it, but I live out here, and Pelinka just booted him out.
Yeah.
So are these guys just great players, and they should relish being great players and not trying to understand and figure out how to run a team, because it's a whole different concept, because the Hornets did nothing.
Yeah, Michael Jordan is definitely one of those guys who, and it's not just what he did this past offseason. I think that Terry Rozier contract was extremely questionable. They took him from Boston, but he had a very down year in Boston, and they gave him a $60 million contract over 3 years. That's a ton of money for a guy who just came off a down year. They lost Jeremy Lamb, who was their second leading scorer to the Pacers. They seem to be going, I would think, with a rebuild here. But it's not just this past offseason for Charlotte. They've been so bad. They've just been in no man's land, kind of hoping to sneak into the playoffs, but, they miss out in the playoffs more often than not. Michael Jordan has just done a very, very bad job of managing this team. Because they've been in that
bad
area.
Job, horrible job. Say horrible.
Yeah, it has been a horrible job. They've been in that area where you don't want to be, where they don't have the assets to make a big move, but their team isn't good enough to make any kind of move. And Magic Johnson has been Michael. What he should have done is what blows my mind here. Teams would have been blowing up their phone for Charlotte trying to acquire Kemba Walker at the trade deadline, and they kept
right.
They kept him, and then they didn't even offer him the max, and they let him walk. So I don't understand why you keep him past the trade deadline if you're not even going to offer him the max contract as a free agent. which that just blows my mind of why you want to trade him and get some kind of asset back for him. I mean, they could have just signed Rozier outright. I know they signed and traded Kemba to Boston, but Charlotte didn't need to do the sign and trade. They could have just signed him outright. So they essentially let Kemba walk for just for nothing. I mean, they could have gotten some kind of draft pick or young player, and they didn't do that. It's been like Jordan has almost been he doesn't want to blow it up. He doesn't want to, accept the tanking and just, swallow his ego and let the team bottom out for a few years so they can rebuild. He doesn't want to do that, and now they let their superstar player, who they could have got significant return for, and they let him walk for nothing. So I don't understand what the plan is here.
Yeah, the Charlotte Hornets are the biggest enigma in the NBA to me. When you have a guy like Michael Jordan running the franchise, owning the franchise for the a large part, running the franchise, and seeing them do absolutely nothing. And Charlotte's a great sports town. I mean, they got the Panthers, they got the Hurricanes, they got NASCAR. That's their world headquarters there. That's a great sports town. And for them to put that product on the floor day in and day out, and Michael Jordan is on top of it, that's just very disappointing to me for the city. I just don't think it's living proof again that great players don't make great coaches, don't make great general managers, don't make great owners. You saw Magic get booted out of the Lakers. We've seen other guys get booted out. So, it happens. But they've done nothing to improve their team at all, and they'll be bottom dwellers again.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, Cole. We've been on for a long time. Wrap it up. What's the biggest? What is the biggest thing in the free agency market that happened? What's the biggest thing?
Well, I mean, to me, I think you have to go with that Clippers the acquiring Kawhi Leonard and acquiring Paul George in a trade, A, because of the ramifications for the NBA, and B, because the Paul George aspect of that kind of came out of nowhere. So that kind of changed the entire landscape really out of nowhere.
All right, and who faux pas the biggest in this free agency market?
What do you mean by what is that?
Faux pas. I mean, I agree with you on the biggest move. I think the Clippers. Yeah. They're the darlings of the free agency week. They came out ahead. Lakers tried to keep up with them, but I think the Lakers are on a one-year plan. I mean, my wife works in assisted living, long-term care, and they're all going to the old seniors' homes right now. Everybody in the Lakers has got 1 year left in them, and they're going to try and do it this year, and we'll see. The biggest faux pas, I'll tell you right now, I think it's Knicks. I think they blew it.
Yeah, I guess to me, I'll say the Knicks are up there. I still say Charlotte because I'll say this for the Knicks.
Yeah.
The Knicks missed on their targets, but at least they didn't give out stupid contracts. And I look at that Terry Rozier contract, a player who's coming off just a straight-up bad season last year, and they gave him 3 years, $60 million. So at least the Knicks didn't give out, in my mind, any stupid long-term contracts that will really hurt them. I think Charlotte did that.
So the Knicks then basically are realistically 2 years away from making anything happen because we don't see next year's free agency market being a big deal. No. We don't see a lot of great kids coming out of college like we had this year. So 2021, so the Knicks are going to sit back now for 2 more years at Madison Square Garden in the biggest city in the United States with a very mediocre basketball team that will probably lose more games than it will win.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt about that. This team was going all in on 2019 free agency a few years ago. They missed on that, and now they're running it back again, and 2021 is going to be their year. So we'll see what happens. They've been talking about acquiring that marquee free agent for a while now, and they haven't been able to do it. So,
yeah. All right. Well, great discussion. Thank you very much. This is Survive in Advance. The NBA free agency show. Cole Hanna, who's the NBA beat reporter for us, also covers IU basketball and football for us. You can find us on Spotify, Spreaker, YouTube, iTunes, wherever you can get a podcast, you can find Survive in Advance. We also want to thank our sponsors, betnow.edu, betnow.edu, who helps us put the show on the air for you guys. And, we welcome your feedback. You can find me at SRosie34 on Twitter, on AOL, on Instagram. Anyone, fire back to me. Fine. Cole, I'm not going to give yours out. You're a college kid. You don't need this kind of crap thrown back at you. So we'll leave you quiet. Any final comments on the NBA season? I mean, what do you think? I mean, I think it's silly. I think they spent way too much money, $3.5 billion for guys to play basketball. That's crazy.
Yeah. The only thing I'll say about that is, I agree with you there. But the bottom line is, I think this is healthy for the league. I mean, the amount of interest gathering in free agency. I mean, what you have this. You turn the channel on ESPN, and they have a 5-hour free agency special. The amount of media attention they're stringing from this is unreal. And say what you will, but it's entertaining to follow with how many deals were being made and how many big contracts were being given out. Yeah, it was fun to follow.
Yeah, and here's the last thing I'll end with is I actually listened for several shows to Stephen A. Smith. And here's a guy, and I'll tell you about Stephen A. Smith. And this is the advice I got about Bob Knight. Don't listen to how he says things. Listen to what he says. Stephen A. Smith is not an idiot. I mean, he understands what's going on. He just delivers it in a way that most people don't like to have it delivered to them. And that's how Bob Knight was. I mean, and Ken Benson told me that the day I went in to go meet Coach Knight, when I was being recruited. And he said, hey, don't listen to how he says things, listen to what he says. And Kent told me that, and I kind of took that to heart as much as I could, but it still hurts, when you're called some certain names in this. Yeah. But, and Stephen A. Smith is kind of the same way. He's actually an intelligent guy. Just how he delivers information is kind of goofy, and that turns people off immediately because they can't get over that hump. So anyway.
Yeah.
Cole, thank you. Great show. And we'll sign off here in just a second. This is the grillingtruth.com, Survive in Advance, the NBA preview show, or NBA review show of the free agency situation. And we thank you for listening.